Hi, my name's Louise Platt at Spiral Bright Insight. I'm a galactic and an intuitive astrologer, and I want to talk today about the full moon. Now, this is the last full moon of 2024. We will have a new moon, which is going to end the year effectively right at the end of December. So I will be back, all being well, to talk about the energy of this new moon, which will be in Capricorn. But on the 15th of December, we have a full moon in Gemini. So what I do with these videos is try and give you a flavor or some insight to, what the themes, what the energies of the signs that are being activated are bringing and how we might work with those energies. And I also bring in some of the fixed star and cosmic energies, just so that we can see a sort of more galactic, wider perspective of how the energy of each of these key events in the astrological calendar are showing up for us. So when we have a full moon, it is when the moon is in exact opposition to the sun. In this case, because the sun is in Sagittarius at the moment, the moon is coming round to oppose the sun at 23 degrees 52 minutes of Gemini. So we've got this axis of understanding, of knowledge, of wisdom, of information, of communication being activated at this time with the Gemini and the Sagittarius energies in opposition. And of course, whenever we're working with anything in opposition, particularly at a full moon, this is about being able to balance the two energies out, to find some middle ground, to come in and to basically stand in the middle and work with both the energies, because both of them have something to teach us. And of course, there are a lot of fixed star alignments at this full moon as well. So I will explain how those are showing up and what they are bringing to us. So let's start first of all with the energy of Gemini. Now, Gemini is the third sign in the zodiac. It is mutable air. So already we are really working with an energy that is very quick, very fast, very flighty. Gemini can be quite scattered. Gemini tends to sort of jump from one thing to the other. It's quite difficult to really settle and focus when you've got strong Gemini happening. So, and because this is an air sign and we're talking about the mind and communication, this is very much really bringing us into our heads. Now, it's great to be in your head, to be able to think about things, to have the intelligence, to understand what is going on. But the chances are at the time of this full moon, which is on the 15th of December, is that there is going to be an absolute onslaught of facts and information, because the full moon has the benefit of the sun shining its full focus on the energy of the sign that the full moon is in. And in this case with Gemini, the sun is literally lighting up all of the information, the facts, the detail, that a lot of which we might have had access to be access to before, but the chances are there is an awful lot more coming in. It's going to be quick, it's going to be really fast, and potentially quite overwhelming. It's going to be hard to really know sort of which way to look, who to listen to, who to believe. And really discernment is going to be your best friend at this time for sure. Now, Gemini, as I said, brings us into the head. It's associated with the mind, with understanding, with mindset, with also with communication. So this is stories, this is words, this is the media, this is my dog. This is gossip as well, sort of small talk, lots of chat, lots of noise, lots of stories coming at us from all angles, as I said. So, we have to be nimble, we have to be fleet of foot when we have strong Gemini, but it's also important to really try and move towards the energy of the sun. So this is really about not getting completely bogged down in the detail and the facts and the stories and the words and all that noise, and being able to rise up and see things from a bigger, higher perspective through the Sagittarius energy. And there's lots of support to help us do that, which I will break apart soon. But again, it's important as well that with Gemini, because Gemini is represented by the twins, there is always a sense of duality with Gemini, with choice, with having to perhaps take a side. And again, there may be a lot more focus or noise directed towards that. We may be in a situation or have information available to us that requires us or is asking us, inviting us to take a side, to pick a side. But, if you've been following my channel for, a while or long enough, you will know that, I talk about ascension, I talk about unity consciousness, I talk about higher consciousness and rising up. And the way to ascend is really to be able to step out of this duality consciousness and mindset, to be able to see that although you may have a different opinion from someone, it doesn't mean that you are right and they are wrong, and that there is always a way to find a common ground, which is ultimately what this full moon is really asking us to do. So if we're finding that there's a lot of noise and people are getting really sort of irritated and overwhelmed, and we're having to make choices or take sides, it is really important that you try and look above what is going on, to see, to step out, perhaps, to give yourself some time out if you need to, switch things off and come back into the center, because that is how you can access this higher understanding and this higher wisdom that is absolutely available to us at this time. And for me, Gemini really is about, in its lower expression, yes, it's going to, almost say, there's always two sides. There's right and there's wrong, there's good and bad, there's black and white, whatever. We do live in a polarized world. But when we're working with Gemini in its higher expression, this is about being able to take all these different strands, all these different stories, these different ways, these different beliefs, these different mindsets, and transcend the separation and the duality that comes through attaching to one without being able to take into account or consider or have compassion for the other. So this is about sort of moving beyond duality into unity consciousness through the higher mind, through the Sagittarius signature, and ultimately to transcend sort of dualistic thinking and mindset, which is only going to keep you really bogged down and unable to see the wood for the trees, for sure. So the lunation, the ruling planet of this lunation is Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini. And what's important to be aware of is that at the time of this full moon, Mercury is stationary direct. So it's come to the end of its retrograde period in Sagittarius and is about to move forward later on, just a few hours actually after this full moon. So Mercury's impact and influence is enhanced, it is strengthened because it is stationary. It's come to a standstill and it's sort of negotiating the shift that is about to take place. So Mercury has spent, its time in retrograde in Sagittarius, going within, seeking a connection with the higher wisdom and higher understanding. And it feels really quite profound that it is about to station direct again at the time of the full moon in its ruling sign. So I'm going to show you the chart. Okay, so here we have got the chart, which I have set for Bedford this time. And as you can see, we have got the sun over here in Sagittarius opposing the moon over here in Gemini. Now, we also have, so we've got this opposition. If you can, I know there's a lot of lines in the middle of this circle, but if you can make out Neptune, which is now back in direct motion, is creating a square. So this is a T square. This is a mutable T square between Pisces, Neptune and Pisces, Sun in Sag, Moon in Gemini. So with a mutable T square, there is tension being created for sure. We have two squares and an opposition. So this is not very comfortable energy. It is absolutely the case that adjustments have to be required, and we have to be comfortable with the energy of change, of a shifting landscape, particularly when Neptune in Pisces is involved. Neptune in Pisces, is potentially going to create some confusion or some illusion or some blurred lines between the information and the understanding of it, for sure. It is going to be, like I said, it's going to be really, really important that you use your discernment. Now, of course, we don't have anything in the opposite sign of Virgo at this time. We do have the South Node in Libra, so you could say this is a grand mutable cross, but because the South Node, the nodes are still on a different axis. They will be moving into Pisces and Virgo in January, but at the moment they're still in Libra and Aries. So I'm not going to bring them into this, but obviously, it is important that we do use our discernment and we draw on the Virgo energy. So if you have got anything around the late degrees of Virgo, then this is going to really help you to do that, to come into the body and to really feel what is right and what is true. So definitely creating lots of mental tension through this mutable T-square. We have to be flexible, but we're also having to bear in mind that any sort of tension that is created, the way out is through our spiritual beliefs, our spiritual perspective, and being able to take a more unified approach. And of course, Neptune in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, but it is where we merge with all that is, where we let go of all the kind of lower, mundane, sort of physical aspects and really step into unity consciousness. So this is ultimately what we are being invited to do through this T-square. This is about spiritual evolution for sure. It's about seeking creative solutions, but also solutions that are born out of compassion, because Neptune and Pisces are both very compassionate, very creative energies, and when combined, that is strengthened even further. Ultimately, we need to be flexible because we are dealing with huge amounts of change at this time, and this T-square really magnifies that. So we've got some other. Obviously, I'm not going to go through every single aspect of this chart. I am drawn to the fact that Mercury in retrograde, but obviously still, stationing now, about to turn direct, is in a trine with Mars. So you've got this fantastic fire energy, which is very sort of energizing, but just be mindful that both these planets, Mercury and Mars, are still in retrograde motion. So this is a fire that is coming from within. This is drive, this is passion that is really being generated at an inner level at this time. And of course, if you bring it up to here with the North Node in Aries, we've got a beautiful grand fire trine. So sort of any sort of higher understanding and wisdom that is coming through or has come through from Mercury's retrograde in Sagittarius, combined with Mars, who is really having to face his own inner courage and really master and embrace his own inner light. This is really helping us to step into more of who we are meant to be with the North Node in Aries. And of course, the North Node is really in the final throes now of this transit through Aries, as he's ready to move into Pisces in the middle of January. So we've got some really strong and powerful aspects. Obviously, a grand trine is very potent because the energy flows. But again, with a trine, the energy has no exit point. The only option it has is to keep going. It moves from one to the next, and back again. And so the momentum builds. And because we're working with a fire trine, and this is with two retrograde planets, we may feel, although we're feeling very energized and very passionate and lots of action, there can be a lot of heat. Obviously, anger, frustration, aggression can start to come forward. And again, if that takes hold, it can be really hard to shut it down because the trine keeps the energy moving, in a constant cycle. So, we may be feeling quite hot and bothered, but also, when just be mindful that with a lot of fire energy, again, with the trine, it can be hard to put the flames out. So be careful about what you get drawn into at this time, because there is a risk of you burning out or literally getting so hot and bothered and so worked up that, this could potentially be quite explosive energy. Or certainly that's what I'm kind of feeling I need to share at this time. Right, I'm going to also draw attention to the fact that Ceres, or Ceres, which is the goddess of fertility and abundance and the harvest, is in a square to Hermia at 2 degrees of Scorpio. And of course, if you're into galactic astrology, you will know instantly that this is that Hermia is currently conjunct the Shapley attractor. So Ceres is in a square to Hermia and the Shapley. And of course, we've still got Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, approaching the exact square with Hermia and with the Shapley, but also very close to Ceres. Now, this is really, really powerful. We have to find a solution when we're working with a square, because the energy of Scorpio, which wants to kind of take us down really deep into the shadow, is really at odds with the energy of Aquarius, which is the air sign fixed. But of course, Pluto is the ruling planet of Scorpio. So although there is this square, there is a much it feels easier to kind of come to an agreement and to work our way out of this one. And the other thing that's interesting is the fact that Ceres and Hermia, they share very, very similar qualities. They're both about creativity. Hermia is more about regeneration, rebirth, but they're both very linked to nature and really understand the importance of nature and Mother Earth, and that sort of primal energy, that the cyclical nature of our world, of our reality. Both signs really want us to connect with the nurture and nature element. Ceres and Hermia are very comfortable with sort of nature's natural cycles, with the fact that everything has a natural ending. We have to destroy to be able to create, and that is a pattern that we see throughout the year in nature. And this is also reflected in our own experience of life here on Earth. So, this is a really interesting aspect to be working with. And for me, it is almost creating this tension so that we cannot sort of avoid the need to really connect with what we need to look after ourselves. What do we need to make sure that we have the self-care in order to see us through these times? This is about coming back to nature, coming back to the earth, to grounding our energy into making that connection with these beautiful energies, who are through this clash, they are creating noise, they are creating tension, but ultimately they both want the same thing, which is really interesting. And it's almost like, if you're feeling that overwhelm, I said this at the beginning, if you're feeling that mental overwhelm, there's too much mental stimulation, there's too much noise, too many ideas, we have this option to either kind of step into our imagination through the square to Neptune, which is going to perhaps, yes, take us higher, give us a more spiritual perspective, but may also encourage us to want to escape. Or we can come back to this really grounding, caring, nurturing energy of both Ceres and Hermia. Ceres can also represent loss and grief, because obviously, this dwarf planet has links to Persephone and and her journey into the underworld. Ceres was Persephone's mother, so she had to experience that loss, that grief, that separation. So again, acknowledging that, during times of huge transition and change that we are going through, with this mutable full moon, that there is likely to be loss and grief, and that it is important to honor that and to allow yourself to process that, because again, that is really important part of the healing. But again, acknowledging that, we do have to let go of something to bring in the new, and that is a natural part and cycle of life. It's also for me helping to really ground in the transition and the transformational sort of shift that we are all experiencing at this time. And the other sort of really strong, I mean, there's lots of things in this chart that always are, but the other thing that I want to just draw attention to are these interesting symbols up here. If you've been watching my content for a while, you may recognize this is the asteroid Atlantis at 25 degrees of Libra, next to Hecate, who is at 28 degrees of Libra. Now, Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft. She is very linked to magic, to spells, to intuition, to power of the mind, to the power of the word. And it's interesting that she is very close here to Atlantis in this full moon chart, because, you know, I've been talking quite a lot about Atlantis and how I really do believe that we are at this time where we are processing a lot of the wounds and the karma that so many souls have connected to Atlantis and times in Atlantis, Atlantean lifetimes. And the fact that Hecate is very close here, you know, she's getting towards the end now of Libra, but this again for me is about bringing peace to those wounds that many of us carry, which are linked to both Atlantis and also to the witch wound, to having special powers and gifts and abilities that were seen as a threat to so many in many other lifetimes, and to being able to bring a level of peace and harmony to any wounds that we carry with relation to this witch wound, in order that we can really start to step into the gifts that we are ready to activate in this lifetime. There's no point having these gifts if we're going to be scared of them or ashamed of them or try and shut them down and hide them and ignore them. You know, this is the lifetime where we release and we clear all that trauma, all that pain and all those wounds, and really start to activate and to step into those gifts. So really, it's interesting to see those two together. And for me, Libra can often represent contracts and agreements. So again, you know, there is the sense that so many of us have come in with this karmic agreement and contract that we are actually to release and bring harmony and peace to a lot of these troubles and wounds from other lifetimes. So it does feel as if this is the lifetime where we can just move through it, let go and allow it to heal, so that we can then become everything that we were meant to be. So that is really beautiful. And of course, Atlantis and Hecate are both in trine to the moon in Gemini. So the moon is giving or allowing access to a new understanding, a new mindset, new information that is going to really create an emotional response, because this is the moon we're talking about, that is also helping us to really access greater and deeper understanding about the Atlantean wounds, about the witch wound, and really help to move through and process that from both a mental and an emotional perspective. And with the support through the sextile to the sun and the galactic center, I'll talk more about in a minute, you know, there is this really beautiful support, higher understanding, higher wisdom, and also the ability to rise up and see things from a new perspective, which allow more freedom and a release from where we may have felt trapped through many, many different lifetimes, because it does feel, as I said, that this is the lifetime in which we are able to move away from this. Also, this is the lifetime in which we are able to heal this, and it comes through understanding and bringing the parts of us that perhaps we had disassociated from or disconnected from or separated from back into wholeness through the Libra signature. So I'm going to just quickly go through some of the key fixed star and astrological alignments. We've got quite a lot just with the moon and the sun alone at this time, because the sun at 23:52 of Sag is very close to the galactic center. Now, the galactic center is probably, I mean, they describe it as the baby of the cosmic points, but that it's kind of hard for us to even comprehend how powerful these galactic points and cosmic points are. When we're working with the galactic center, this gives us a direct line to higher cosmic wisdom. This is source energy. This is light codes. This is downloads. This is higher understanding just streaming through. Because it's coming through and the sun is activating this point, there is no way to switch it off. It's coming ready or not. And the sun is really shining a light. And of course, as the sun moves round to an exact conjunction with the galactic center, this is only going to become more powerful in the days following this full moon. So really, really strong, powerful, cosmic, galactic, angelic energy streaming through, just ready for us to kind of pull in and to work with. And we also have a star in the Ophiuchus constellation, Razelhag, very close to the sun at this full moon. And this really is a star that we associate with the divine feminine. Again, very powerful, linked to serpent energy. So lots of transformation coming through this fixed star conjunction. Ophiuchus, I know a lot of people, it is a constellation. It is said to be the 13th sign. Now, there's a lot of talk about whether, our zodiac system and our astrology has been tampered with, and actually we should be working with 13 signs. I know there's lots of different viewpoints about this. My perspective is that this is the 13th sign, so it acts as a bridge. So, we have the 12 signs that we work with, and then the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, acts as a bridge to a higher realms of consciousness, to a higher reality, to other dimensions. So it is very, very powerful, and it really helps us when it's activated in the chart to sort of reach those other levels that perhaps aren't always accessible to us unless we're ready to step into this higher consciousness. So the serpent, really bringing through images of the ability to shed layers in order to step into the new, in order to rise up. If things are holding us down, this star helps us to let go, to release what no longer serves us. There is also an association here with the underworld, and the fact that by facing the shadow and the darkness is actually, our route and our key to enlightenment and to empowerment. So transformation through deep shadow work, which is something that so many of us have been doing. But again, the sun, the light of the sun is really activating this energy signature for us all. So again, acknowledging that perhaps there is darkness coming out here. There is darkness being seen. Certainly Pluto, is very good at exposing what has been hidden, but oftentimes we need to be able to see that shadow and to sit with that shadow and to integrate and invite it in, rather than keeping it at arm's length or fighting it or turning our back on it, in order to be healed, in order to ascend. So this star is also linked to justice, to being able to see the truth. So again, with the galactic center as well here, so much is being dissolved or magnetized or drawn away so that we can have this higher understanding. We do have access to this higher wisdom, and it helps us to release any fear. So that is really, really powerful. Now, the moon in the opposing sign of Gemini is very close to a lot of the Orion stars, the Orion star cluster. Now, I'm not going to go through each one individually because, a lot of them are within this degree point, very close to this point in Gemini. But ultimately, Orion really draws our attention to our galactic karma and our galactic history within this star system. There are huge themes of polarity and separation consciousness that come up. But again, it feels that the sun is shining a light on this so that we can see it for what it is, so that we can really sort of connect to a deeper understanding of this time. And this is karma that so many souls are bringing in to work through, to almost to kind of make this separation and the division and the polarity and the duality so loud, so noisy, to the point where it becomes uncomfortable. And the only way really to work with it is to step above it. And again, I talked about that at the beginning when I was sort of saying we need to move out of that sort of duality into a more unified way of seeing the world. But this is really giving us an opportunity to move beyond the separation and to guide us through any inner battles or any inner separation that we may be experiencing or that we have been experiencing that is keeping us locked in to a certain way of being or a certain mindset. So, this is a really great opportunity to transcend that. We also have fixed star Capella. I'm going to close this now, actually. We also have fixed star Capella in the Auriga constellation, very close to the moon at this time. And this really helps us to, Capella is like a beacon of light. It is very protective. It's that sort of shepherd, wise, caring, nurturing energy. Also brings in a theme of peace as well, which is really beautiful. So helping us to move through these times and helping us to balance logic with emotion and logic and understanding with compassion. Neptune is coming back into an alignment with the Pegasus star Schiat. So this is very much way shower energy, multi-dimensional energy, the ability to see the bigger picture, to be able to look beyond the horizon, to have trust and faith that we are going to places that perhaps we won't recognize or that we haven't seen before, that are completely new and exciting, but we have the faith and the trust that it is going to be worth it. And so, it kind of, it gives us that momentum to keep going despite, the challenges and also the extreme fatigue. There is understanding that, this has not been an easy journey by far, but Pegasus just gives that momentum to keep going. It's also very prophetic energy. So it's helping us to sort of have that more telepathic ability, psychic ability, spiritual perspective. So the other alignment that really stood out to me in the chart is the fact that Mars is very close still to Cancri 55 or Rogue Cancri, which is the diamond star. So that beautiful energy is infusing the Grand Fire trine that I referred to earlier on, bringing these beautiful high frequency, sort of multifaceted diamond sparkly light and energy into the chart at this time, helping us to almost elevate our understanding and our mindset and our connection to our higher wisdom through Mercury, and really infusing that energy into the North Node in Aries as well, which is really sort of spearheading where we are going in terms of our soul's evolution. So that is a really beautiful energy to be working with at this time. There are lots of other fixed star activations with other planets and points in the chart, but we've already talked about the galactic center and conjunct the sun. The south node is conjunct the supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra, and I shared my thoughts about that particular aspect in one of my recent videos, so I won't go over that again. We also had, and I referred to this earlier, the Shapley attractor at 2 degrees of Scorpio is conjunct Hermia in a square to Ceres and Pluto, but also quincunx the North Node 2 degrees. So again, there is this real sort of tension, almost incompatible energy between Scorpio, Shapley, and the North Node in Aries at this time. So my interpretation of that, because Shapley is very much about the energy and the core signature and the essence of truth and of dropping all the veils, all the illusions, anything that is preventing us from standing in our complete authenticity, we need to go through that process if we are to step into the full potential for our soul's evolution and our soul's growth in Aries, pushing us forward into that sovereign being who has a complete understanding and complete ownership of who we are, really taking that strong Aries I am energy of the self energy without any apology, without any sort of interference or influence trying to divert us to either be or think or act in a way that is not authentic and true to us. So again, with the Homea and the Shapley at 2 degrees in this quincunx or quincunx, it is really creating some sort of discomfort so that we have to take action, so that we have to navigate through, we have to find a solution. And of course, with Hermia there, it's likely to be a very creative solution, one that requires us to undergo this process of regeneration and rebirth in order to become exactly who it is that we're meant to be, in order to claim who we are and claim who we are meant to be. So that is a really interesting but very powerful little aspect with the impact and the support of the Shapley. And then, of course, we've got Jupiter. So Jupiter is opposing the great attractor in Sagittarius, very close to a conjunction with Rigel in the Orion system as well. So again, it is taking all the information and all the facts that are being, magnified at this full moon, but also magnified through the fact that Jupiter is still in Gemini, and really using the influence of fixed star Rigel to gain some clarity, to push through confusion, to take a step forward, using the information that is coming forward to almost propel us, to project us into a higher way of being, to perhaps, require us to shift and expand our mindset and our belief systems, because Jupiter and Sagittarius are very much linked to beliefs. But this again is part of the process of evolution, of transformation and expansion. So, all in all, there are some really strong themes in here, but it is very much going to be a time where we are going to feel inundated, bombarded, overwhelmed with facts, with information. And it is about being able to, first of all, discern what is real and what is not, because of course, there is a lot of potential here for fusion and distraction with the square to Neptune. That is absolutely a possibility. It is about discerning what is real and what is not, stepping into the heart, but also stepping into that connection with Earth, through Hermia, through Ceres, that self-care, that nurture. And if you don't feel, and it's about being able to give it to yourself as well, to really connect with nature, because she wants to nourish, she wants to nurture, she wants to hold the space for us, and she is there all the time if we are willing to connect with her. So really beautiful opportunity to do that at this full moon. And these cosmic points, these fixed star energies, really help us grasp this higher understanding and to see things from a bigger perspective, a wider perspective, to step into the higher mind, to kind of get to release ourselves from the sort of the gossip and the tittle tattle and the small talk and the overwhelm and the mental stimulation that is absolutely going to be a part of the last couple of weeks in December for sure. So I hope you found that useful and that you've been able to get something new from it perhaps, or just something to consider. Let me know where this full moon is landing in your chart. And for me, it is in the 9th house, which is interesting given, this link obviously to the mind and higher understanding. And just a reminder that if you want to work with me, if you want to explore the galactic connections in your chart, look at your starseed lineage or your soul purpose. If you're looking for more wisdom, more insight, more understanding, I do offer readings, and you can find out about everything that I offer on my website at spiralbright.co.uk. And also, if you're not already on it, please join my mailing list, because I do have a monthly newsletter going out, and I will be getting in touch to let you know about a few things that I have got in the pipelines, in the planning at this point as well. So if you're not on that already and you want to know about what I'm up to and what is coming up, please do sign up for that. And again, you can do that on my website, spiralbright.co.uk. But thank you so much for watching, and I will be back soon.